So now I'm going to introduce my very good friends and fellow board members, Roberta and Paul Gilsdorf, who are here to talk about the connections of Theosophy and the Amazon. Paul and Roberta have been members of the Minneapolis Lodge since 2014, where they serve on the board of directors, as I just said. Their recent trip to the Amazonian jungle is the result of Roberta's several years study of nature and practices in shamanism. She is also a poetry writer. Paul recently retired from engineering in the medical industry and is an amateur radio operator. And he'll save the world if, anyway, the worst comes. And then, which it won't, and has had a Buddhist practice since 2006. So I'm going to mute myself and you all take it away.
So most of you I think everyone here, if I'm not mistaken, are familiar with the Theosophical Society, and we come from, as we've been with the Theosophical Society since 2014, and so that's sort of the framework that we are kind of hanging this particular presentation on because there we are. I'm going to put this down so I can see.
You can see them here.
Yeah, pretty small. And so I'll just start by kind of going over very quickly the three objects of the Theosophical Society. And the first is to form a nucleus of universal brotherhood of humanity without distinction of race, creed, sex, caste, or color, to encourage the comparative study of religion, philosophy, and science, and to investigate the unexplained laws of nature and powers latent in humanity. And there's my little cat. So, and then the three tenets, of course, of the Theosophical, as we know, are study, meditation, and service. And I hope that we somehow encompass all of these things in this most recent trip that we made to the Amazon jungle in one way or another. But I thought that would be so how we came to visiting the jungle. So this began for me about in year 2000, probably 24 or 2004, 2005. And when I went and saw a presentation by a woman named Connie Grodz at the Aveda Institute in Minneapolis. And she was, boy, it was a beautiful place, and there was like standing room only. And she was telling the audience, I knew nothing about her beforehand, but telling us about her trips to the jungle and her experiences with a shaman. And I was just transfixed. And I don't even know that I was interested in what was referred to then as plant spirit medicine. And however, I grew up in greenhouses, growing things with my family, in the family business. I'm from northern Minnesota, kind of nature people by just proximity and interest, certainly. And so it was kind of an easy, oh, this might be what I do, or I'm kind of interested in. And I didn't know how that looked. Now, the next thing I know, I am in 2006, I joined her. She had this woman, Connie, had occasion to move back to Minnesota. Now, I think she was from the West Coast. She's actually originally from Forest Lake, but she was living on the West Coast. Pharmacist by nature, by career, very mainstream pharmaceutical job. And she somehow, and this is Connie's story to tell, so I'm just going to really gloss over it because she's written some books and such, if you want to learn more from her. But I'm just giving her the background in terms of how this interested me. And so she had this really deep science background and certainly focus and understanding, scientist, a pharmacist, and then juxtaposed, which at the time didn't seem to mesh too much with the more ordinary nature-based spirituality, shamanism, or shamanistic practices, certainly. And for some reason, she was able to blend those things together for me seamlessly, without difference. And that was new. That was really new. And And her eyes sparkled too. So I'm just saying. I'm just saying. So when you see somebody whose eyes sparkle, I don't know. That I throw that in just because it was kind of an interesting thing. I just thought she knows things. So anyway, fast forward in 2006, I joined. She ended up moving back to Minneapolis, where she was head of a department at MCTC in pharmacy, and there was some spiritual connotation to. They were trying to do expand out their curriculums. And that lasted for a few years. And then as we know, all the schools went back to the basics, English, math, blah, blah, blah. And so they disposed of those programs. But during her time in Minneapolis, and I have no idea how I got on her mailing list, how I was aware that this opportunity was available. I did a year-long sort of apprenticeship program thing with her in person. It was cool because, back in the day when you could do things in person, or you only did things in person, and that was 2006 to 2007. And I had done that, and it was really life-changing. We spent a lot of time at the Mississippi River. I learned to shamanic journey there, communicate with plants. We did a lot of study. It was really now what she refers to. I don't know if she was referring to it as deep ecology at the time, but that's the term now that I really love. I just love that this experience of deep ecology, and so that's what I say I do. I engage in deep ecology, and you can do that anywhere from wherever you live. And so, and I'll get to that point later about how it starts at home. No matter how far you go abroad, it's a home thing. But anyway, so let's see. So Connie, oh, and I guess my next time with Connie, it was about 2020. I never forgot Connie. I was still doing studying and reading and practicing things. During I contacted her in 2020 because I just want to see what she was doing and if she was still offering these things and where she was. And so she's back, I think out on the East Coast or West Coast rather, southern West Coast is what's going on. Anyway, so she's not in Minnesota any longer, but she is somewhere else. And as we know, everything started to occur on Zoom. And so she has an offering of a whole bunch of classes and things you can engage in. And the one I was really interested in is writing. And which I think it's called Wild Writing. And so I've been with that group now for since then, 2020, 21. And it's a pretty vibrant group. We write together every week. And then I joined another group which is we call ourselves, funnily enough, we call ourselves the Nature Nuts. That's not official. We just call ourselves Nature Nuts. And I like to spell it with a Z, Nature Nuts. Because but this we engage in deep ecology and whatever that and then that's a very expansive framework. Like right now, we are really studying love. I mean, I know that sounds simple, but we are really engaged in talking and learning about love and how to love and what that means. And so it's a really lovely group. And so that's my background and how I ended up going to the Amazon. And I'll have to say how she ended up as part of her in the Amazon and going to the Amazon regularly is that she hosts groups of holistic nurses and pharmacy students getting continuing education and continuing education credits. So there was when we went to the Amazon, there was a group of holistic nurses, and it was a fairly big group too. I'm not
Yeah,
sure how many.
in the upper teens at least,
Oh, more than that. There's probably
20
yeah,
plus.
25 people maybe, and they all had really unique stories from their experiences in
Yeah.
nursing
Hmm.
and at the beginning, middle, end of their careers, um, second careers as nurses and looking for more. That was the theme that seemed to run through was everybody was really seemed to be looking for more. There was a lot of burnout and dissatisfaction. I think these people are drawn to being healers and whatever that means. And I don't even think it's clear to them either. But they all ended up in the Amazon with Connie and the pharmacy students from Ohio. And I have never, I mean, I've, been around groups of young people and they were all young. And they, I just have all the hope in the world for young people now, having spent time with them, because it's just, they are so cool and so interested. And we're in good hands with these pharmacy students. I am positive. So anyway, yes, Paul.
I just want to help you with something here. I think if I shrink this, it'll make your work much better.
Oh,
There you
thank you.
go.
Okay.
Okay.
So, so where was I? Oh, the pharmacy students. So yeah, we spent a lot of time with them. And then there was two of us and Paul with me that were her nature nuts. Her students who study ecology and shamanistic practices and things like that with her. And that was that. So that's the framework of our trip. And so let's go to the jungle. All
There you
right.
go.
So here is, so we from flew to Peru, and then this is the flight from Peru to Iquitos, where we have to get on the river to get to where we're going. But this is our first glimpse of the Amazon River, and Paul took that out of the airplane. And you hear things and see pictures, and but to kind of experience it from up high, and it's like, oh my gosh, it looks like a snake. And it's and just this expanse of water and how it meanders, it was quite fantastic. And it was really special, I think. And so we land in Iquitos, and I'm giving a little bit of this sort of travelogue thing that just for context, and we'll get to more practices and learnings about plants and such a little later. So this is Iquitos. And Iquitos is an interesting city. And one of the things I learned about Peru, or the jungle, this area on the Amazon River, this is a city of about 500,000 people, give or take. And the only access to it with all of these people and infrastructure, and I included this little clip because it's very metropolitan, but the only way to get to it is airplane or river. There's no roads through the jungle. They just, it's remarkable to me because there's stores and malls and, cell phone shops and shops for this and that. And look at all these people. What if I can, and that's just a day scene. That's, that's what's happening every day. They drive these little rickshaws kind of thing and motorcycles, and there are a few vehicles, but I just think it's easier to travel around with these types of like rickshaw and motorcycles and bikes and whatnot. But it's surprising like how difficult and challenging it is to get there, but because boat or airplane, and yet it holds that much infrastructure and people and businesses and hospitals and everything. And so anyway, but that's where we sort of landed. And then from there we went up the river to our lodge. And yeah, so and I realized early on that, oh, they don't have roads or buses. Their roads are rivers. Their roads are water. And like that kind of blew my mind. I mean, I know we're from Minnesota and there's a lot of water here, but I was just surprised that, oh no, you really don't get in a car and drive other than in Iquitos in the city, but to the jungle to get to the different villages on the river or places, you on the river, you travel on the water. And we were fortunate enough to be at a time when the water levels were high on the Amazon. And so the levels go down too, depending on the season and rainfall. So we were in high water season. So we get on this is our little sort of bus, a little taxi to bring us to our final destination at the lodge called the Heliconia Lodge, named after the flower. And so on the way there, and this is one of the first stop we made. It's a place called Monkey Island. And it is such a special place. And Monkey Island is a rescue. And these people who run this organization, they rehabilitate these monkeys and primates. And as far as I can tell, too, I think they may take care of some birds and things too. And because I saw parrots and things like that that were in cages. So for the most part, you just pull up in the boat, and this is the sign to get into Monkey Island. I think right now they have 8 types of monkeys that in residence there. And so here are some of the fabulous residents, members of the community there on Monkey Island, and they just sort of roam free, but most of them. So these guys do run free. And so this little one here, the bigger picture, and then the one on the bottom who's holding onto that cage. It's a parrot cage. He's stealing fruit from a parrot. So he was but those are capuchin monkeys. And those are often they end up on Monkey Island being rehabilitated because people really love them as pets. And it's unfortunate. It's really unfortunate. And so and they're very friendly to us or visitors. They just roam free for the most part because there are some that they build enclosures for, and the monkeys that are in enclosures require further medical care, and they need to be contained to be treated. And they kind of know how long, like there was one monkey there, and the gentleman who was our guide said this one will be here for another year or two for its rehabilitation. And so and then once they rehabilitate them, they get back out to the jungle. And from what I understand, a lot of the monkeys, the Monkey Island is fairly big, and they just bring them to the jungle on the other side of the island. So, so they're just, and I mean, what a labor of love, I think, in my opinion, that they really care for these little characters. And this one on the top, I think he's a howler monkey. I could be wrong, but that one that's laying in the grass, oh, he was just so unconcerned being surrounded with people. Everybody's around him, and he's just lying around, and then he'd kind of get up, and then he'd just flop back down, and he was just really, really comfortable with people. And I even had one of the little capuchin monkeys. I was squatted down taking a picture, and one of them he just walked under my knees and brushed against my knees. He was not worried about me one bit. So that's encouraging to know that they're not so afraid of people. And people haven't necessarily been good to them. There's some of them that are in cages that are being rehabilitated, and you can see signs of like, oh yeah, there's rehabilitation that needs to happen. But I really love this organization and what they do. I think it's really special. So that was a first thing, just to, and we have rescues here. We have rescues and people with hearts for animals everywhere in the world, and even in the jungle. They care. There's groups of really good people that are taking care of the ones that need care for. So anyway, um, so from Monkey Island, then we go to our lodge. It's called the Haliconia Lodge, and that's on the river. And these are where we stayed, our little huts. And so those huts they're on stilts, and that's water underneath because that's water underneath. And sometimes it's not muddy under there, but sometimes it is. And that's just a kind of a one room, like it's like a hotel room. And so Paul and I stayed in one of those, and they're open air. I mean, it's very hot, of course. The dew point was it 70?
Constant 75 day and night.
Yeah, constant.
Temperature range from 75 at night to 90 in the day.
Yes, yeah, very and hotter than that too. It was pretty hot. And so my skin was delightful by the end of the trip because I had never been hydrated so regularly and totally and completely.
Yeah, and it was all off grid, so there was no air
Oh
conditioning
yeah. They could,
either.
yeah. And I guess they had fairly recently, in recent years, installed solar panels to keep the fans and the lights on at night.
Mhm.
And so there's that. And it's a fairly big lodge. I recommend it if you're going to the
Yeah.
jungle. So our first order of business, as it were, when we got to the jungle, we of course did a ritual. And this is called Olympia bath. And that's the big bowl of herbs that comprise the Olympia bath. And it's a a method of it's a method of healing. It's a spiritual cleansing bath is what it is, a spiritual bath. I was trying to look for the words. And so people of that area and South America use it to heal physical ailments and release negative emotions and restore energetic harmony. I first learned about these in 2006 with Connie. And as you know, in Minnesota, we don't have herbs that you can go out and pick in the garden or in the forest in the winter, unless you want pine or something. But so we would go to the grocery store and buy basil or whatever was available or whatever looked good. And so allowing the grocery store to sort of be your green pharmacy, if you will. And we I learned to do that at that point. And I always and basil I think is a one that's a herb that's used a lot in the traditional Olympia baths because it grows all over in the forest, apparently. And so yeah, and so they went to Iquitos and to those big open air markets and bought these bundles of herbs and tobacco, and Florida water also went into that. And they explained what each of the herbs, there was about a 12 herbs, different herbs that they brought in big bunches. And Paul and myself and my friend, and then the pharmacy students, we all did that Lipia together. And what you do is you tear up all the herbs and you just macerate them. And then you put them in this pool of water and you just mix it up. And I know when I first learned how to do it, I was instructed to leave it outside in the sun and just let it kind of cook for the day, and not to get rancid or anything like that, but just to let the green really infuse the water. And so that's what we did. And we had several herbs, and I wish I would have written them down. I didn't because I was sort of in the moment. But they all had a different purpose, and there were some herbs that were really good for men, some for women. I do remember that we had rosemary. Rosemary was the one I remember. And I looked up rosemary, and I know it's about love and other things. But it was added a really nice thing. And of course, we did put Florida water in that too. And so when the preparation is done, and we did this as a group, we were all around the bowl, and I did show pictures of the group just because I didn't have everybody's permission to show their pictures at a Zoom meeting, other than Freddie, and you'll see Freddie here in a minute. I asked his permission if I could share his image and told him what I was going to be presenting. And so here's Freddie and Paul gave me permission too to use this picture. And so what Freddie did, and you set an intention or say, prayers to yourself, and he just pours that gorgeous herbal water over you in prayer. And it's I'll just say this for myself, coming from a day from 24 hours of travel, preparation. We left in snow in Minnesota. It was icy. Um, all of that after the Olympia, I just felt like, oh, I'm ready to be here now. I was clean again. I was all of that, whatever that energy that I was carrying around from the traveling and the hustle and bustle and anxiety, whatever it was I was carrying, was dissipated by this particular ritual. And it was a great way to start. It was a really nice way to start. And so that's Paul and Freddie. And Freddie, I'll just introduce him. He's the guy with the pitcher and he's just dipping into that blue bucket of beautiful green medicine and pouring it over us. And Freddie was our guide. He's been with Connie and her groups for years. He's a local kid, a local fella. He grew up 10 minutes away from the lodge. He grew up in the jungle. And if anybody if anybody goes there and needs a guide, get Freddie. Find Freddie. He is fantastic. And he's just got this beautiful buoyant personality. He knows like bird calls. someone asked him when, because we were always out on the water and looking at birds. And someone asked him, how many bird calls can you do? Because he could do them all. And he's like, well, maybe about 100. And he's just a man of he lives in Iquitos with his family, and he just had a baby, and he's family man and making a living, but he's really good at this job, and he's the perfect guy for it. So we were in good hands. We were in really good hands. So and Freddie did the rituals because he grew up with them. Freddie performed a lot of the rituals for us. And so that's Freddie and Paul. And then our next excursion, and this is something I think we should all do. I mean, I just thought this was so cool. So, I don't know, even a month or two before we left, Connie instructed us to begin writing in prayers, intentions, whatever, on a piece of paper. And what we were going to do, see that little piece of paper underneath that tree that's Paul planting? We were going to set those intentions in the earth and plant a tree in the jungle. We each planted a tree and with our prayers underneath. And we had really prepared them. We had taken weeks to prepare those and to really think about it. And so it was very powerful. And so Paul, that looks kind of stick-like, but it's some kind of cacao tree that Paul planted. And so that was a really special kind of, and I think like when we're home, our gardens and things, I think it's a beautiful idea if we want to plant our intentions in the ground, in the earth, when our earth isn't frozen. I think that's one that I'll definitely take home with me to just continue with because it's really beautiful and very powerful. And you'll notice we're wearing rain gear because it rains all the time. Rains all the time there. So we were out in the jungle though.
Rainy season.
Yeah, rainy season. And then our next, there's a sloth. That's a sloth. And Freddie, he can spot sloths. He spotted 8 sloths
Over the course of the
over the
4 days.
course of the days. The 4 or 5 days we were out on the rivers with him. He would just see them. He would just
Way
see
up
them.
in the trees.
Yeah, he was really good at it. And so that's the best picture I have of one because you can see the
The hook.
the hook.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so yeah, that was Freddie's gift to us, was showing us sloths. And then one morning we went out for a 6 a.m. bird watching excursion on the river. And we ran into Freddie's friend, 2 of Freddie's mates that he grew up with. And these 2 fellas, I didn't show their faces because, I didn't have their permission. But these 2 guys were out catching. This picture does not do these catfish justice. Those are the most beautiful fish I have ever seen. The silver and that dark gray black was stunning. And so these fellas, they live on the river and they are out earning a living because that's what you do. And they had caught these 2 catfish and they were going to bring them up to Iquitos and they would end up being ceviche. They're going to sell them to a restaurant that they probably fish for. And they make ceviche, which is the raw fish and lime juice. That's served in a lot of the restaurants there. It's kind of, I think I'm not sure if it's a national meal, but it's certainly one that's served a lot in that area. But these fish, it was stunning. So I had to include them just because I was so taken by them. And these guys were really lovely too. I mean, it was really bright and early too. They were out fishing in the morning. And so yeah, and that was on our early morning. And we saw lots of birds. Oh my gosh, so many birds. And then so the next slide here is Paul's going to explain what is called the biological arms race.
I came up with that term. So the biological arms race. So the Amazon jungle is one of the most lush and fertile areas on the planet. As a result, there is much competition between species. Plants and insects have thus become ever more toxic to gain advantage. They're trying to get the leg up on all the others and survive. They don't want to be eaten. And so they have developed very strong defenses. Now, in areas where conditions aren't so lush, there's not that level of competition. But that's what the situation is in the jungle. And this wealth of chemical compounds that they've created has attracted the pharmaceutical industry and has benefited modern medicine. And I could tell you more about the arms race. So um, when we went out, we'd have to wear rubber like knee-high boots. We were warned by Freddie, do not lean against a tree trunk. Do not do that. There are and in fact, when Connie said when she first went into the jungle, she's been doing this trip for 30 some years with people. It was a cute little caterpillar, and she was going to pick it up and put it somewhere and take a picture. And the guy said, "Don't touch that caterpillar. You'll regret it very heavily. Those things are poisonous to the touch." There are, we're used to the fairly innocuous ants. If you're south, maybe you got the fire ants, but there's a thing called a bullet ant. It's like this big thing, and it stings you. It's also called the 24-hour ant because it takes 24 hours for the pain to go away. It An entomologist had to add a new level to his pain scale of stings because it's so intense. And Freddie actually got stung by one once when he was trying to get off of a boat, and after the intense pain, his arm went numb for like hours. It's just dead, paralyzed. So there's red fire ants that are similarly nasty. There's plants. There's just all kinds of stuff. So that's why. And you see the little ant in our room, and it's like, oh, it's just an ant. Oh no, that's an ant. What's going to happen? So
I cleared them out of the room when
yeah,
we had a couple in our room.
so that's the arms race.
Yeah.
But these chemicals, and I don't think I wrote it down here, but the pharmaceutical industry knew all this diversity of life down there, and there's one thing that the people there use for hunting. It's a neurotoxin called curare. That's from a plant, I believe. They put it on their dart tips, on their blow darts, to paralyze monkeys, when they're hunting or kill monkeys. And so they realized this would be great for surgery. So for a while, every surgery, I don't know if it's heart surgery or any surgery, you could curare to slow down the body and the heart. Called they call it tubo curare because it would compact in a bamboo tube. And all that came from this area of the world, all of it. So, and they found all kinds of other compounds. And over time, they said, "Okay, we got enough." And then they started doing the chemistry work, and just synthesizing their own. They're running out of ideas in the pharmaceutical industry, so they may return now to the jungle to do more of this.
Yeah, and that with that curare, if anyone had from what I learned, if anyone had gone under anesthesia in the 1970s, you had that compound from the jungle.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Isn't that fascinating?
Yeah, I had some other point, but I don't have it in my head right now. So
Okay.
it'll come back to me, or we'll have a discussion after. But
Yeah.
yeah, the pharmaceutical industry really, and another fact, another little detail. What medicine does is it'll find a plant or an herb that has a beneficial healing action, and they will break it down in a lab. They're trying to find the one compound that's the active agent that does the work. Then they go to the lab, they synthesize it, and they sell it. Number one, just take the herb. Number two, with the herb, you have other compounds to go with it. These other compounds will mediate the action. It'll cut down on the side effects. It'll kind of mellow it out, yet still be effective. And that's one thing that you lose with straight pharmaceutical, chemical-based variants of all this. I think that's all I have to say on this slide.
Okay.
So press on, Berta.
Right. So one of the things we did, and the very important part of Connie's work with with her teacher, there is a native plant garden. And so this is behind the lodge, and they have a trail that goes back behind the lodge into the jungle. And so Freddie took us to the jungle and told us, and I just you included four different plants because that's what I mean. I took a lot of notes, but it was really jumbled. So these are the clearest notes I have of the native plants that were in the jungle. And so I'm going to do my best with the pronunciation of these. Is Ubos spondeus momben. And so it is this whole tree, and it's such a fascinating plant. It sounded like when Freddie was describing it, it was the first one he described to us, that it has lots of uses, and you herbalists out there will know that there's times of day direct to harvest things, and even with this particular tree, like there's harvesting bark from the east or versus the west for different things. And so, and this and here I'm just going to read from my notes here. The medicine, and some of this may seem a little disjointed, but I wanted to include it because the points were important. And so I hope it connects. The medicine of plants, the medicine chooses the person. The medicine will choose you. And in relation to that, I wrote good hands. And that I think is referring to the healer, the maestro, the curandero, which said that that person, that healer, will contact the energy of the plant, and we're talking, the energetics of it now. Will talk to the energy of a plant and ask if it will heal a person, the patient, directly, in that particular person, and that person will talk to the plant on your behalf and see if it will work with you. And then, again, the specific time, and then that person will prepare the plant as necessary for you. And then the specific, again, the preparations, times of day, directions, which to harvest a plant. Let's see what else I have here. Oh yeah, so this particular tree, though, I wanted to give you a couple of its useful uses. Traditionally, it's an anti-inflammatory, it's an antimicrobial, it's an antiviral agent to treat digestive issues, diarrhea and dysentery, skin infections, wounds, sore throat, and fevers. And it's much more. And I just included this because that's what Freddie shared with us. And he knows, and he's had experience, I believe, with a lot of these plants because this is his pharmacy growing up as a kid growing up in the jungle with his family. And so let's see. Yeah. Oh, is this the same? Yeah, okay. Yeah, and so I think I got this little bit from the internet too. I think this is just quoted directly from AI or something, but it's the bark for diarrhea, hemorrhoids, gonorrhea, and applied to infections. The leaves for stomach aches, colds, fever, and as an eye wash. Also good for treating inflammation. The flowers are good for eye infections, laryngitis, and as a heart tonic. The fruit is good as a diuretic or fever reducer, and the pharmacological effects suggest microantimicrobial activity and comparable to antibiotics. And I remember he was telling us about that, and sedative effects that work on the central nervous system. So that tree does a lot. That tree does a lot.
And it makes furniture too, right?
No, this is
That's
a
not
different
that
one. Yeah. Yeah.
This
So
one.
here's the next tree. It's the Ohe ficus insipida. And this is the one that Freddie said that it was mostly made for furniture. It seems to be like that was the main use of this particular tree, but it's an antiparasitic and laxative. And he was telling us about how you prepare it, and you mix it with fruit juice and honey, and then you bury it in a glass bottle. And however, if you use it incorrectly, it can cause death. So don't do that. So as I'm going to say, Paul and I are not recommending any of this. We're not doctors. We're just passing along the information we got from Freddie. Consult your doctor. Don't, before using it.
Hook doctor before taking
Yeah, before
taking.
Yeah. And this is
Yeah.
this the bot I have the little quote here from Freddie. It said this comes with dietary restrictions should you decide to use this particular plant. It's no pork, no sugar, spicy food or cold drinks. And he said essentially his words were if you do that, no good end. So what does that mean? I don't know, but I don't think I want to know. So thank you. It's so funny. And then so our next plant is called chakaruna. And this one I actually spent days with because Freddie handed me the plant and I took it with me, the leaf. And so this is a more, and I included this one because it's a more energetic usefulness. This one does contain DMT. And this is a medicine that it will show you the medicine in a dream. It will open your senses. The energy of the plant will reveal the antidote or the medicine that's required. And it's an energetic healing plant. And where he's pointing on this slide is to the four eyes along the middle of the leaf. And yeah, that one it was such a strange thing. Yeah. So, and he had given me a leaf of this plant, and I had it in my room the whole time. And I really wanted to take it home with me. I was so connected to it. And, but I know bringing plant materials from other countries is, you just don't do that. You just save yourself the problem at customs. And so I actually said goodbye to my leaf that I had, but I took a bunch of pictures of my leaf and I didn't know what it was for. I didn't know that it had contained DMT. I didn't know it was a more of a well, I did know what he had told us, but I didn't know the extent of it. I've read a little bit more about this plant just because I had developed a relationship with it through just because he's like, here, you take this. Like, okay. So I took it to my room and had it there with me the whole time. Yeah. And then the last plant that I wanted to share is called the Cyric Sanango. And this one, Freddie, this one is an interesting plant. It was beautiful too. This is a picture that from the garden, the plant trail. And so he really stressed, the first thing that he stressed about this plant was it's used for luck in hunting, which is very important. Very, very, very important in that world because hunting is eating. I mean, they eat what they get from the jungle. Fish and fruit are mostly, it makes a good portion of their diets when they live in the jungle. And so hunting is very important. And so you mash it's used for luck in hunting. And to prepare it, you mash the root and mix it with rum. Or if you don't drink alcohol, you can mix it with rainwater. And you prepare it one day before use. And when you consume it, you take only a sip. Do not take a shot. That's too much. And Freddie was telling, because Freddie had done this, probably for hunting. He said your hands will tingle and your legs will shake and you'll feel really cold. And this is a psychotropic plant. I think it also goes into an ayahuasca brew too, but it's used for lots of other uses as well. Do not go to bed, he said. Do not go to bed because death can occur. This just blows me away because there's so much of like, yeah, and you can die if you don't do this right. Okay. And then, so once you consume that little sip, you go to the shower, but do not use soaps or shampoos. It will remain in your body for one day. And then he also said it's good for young people apparently because the perfume can be used to attract a mate. To help you attract a mate. So he said it was really good for young people. And yeah, and so that's my little brief tour of what I learned about the plants in the jungle. I have some more notes about different plants, but these are the ones I could.
I'd like to jump in very briefly here too. One thing I neglected to mention earlier was that, yeah, taking the chemical compounds out of the herb or plant and putting it into a pill, you lose the mediating effects of the other compounds in the plant. But also, they're just looking at the chemical aspect. They're not looking at the energetic aspect
Yeah.
of the plant, which also has, definitely something to say about things too. So, um, yeah, it's the whole healing on the, I don't know what we call it, the etheric level, whatever, but that's one thing that Western medicine hasn't caught on yet with. Maybe it's starting to, but not yet.
Yeah.
So back to you, Berta.
So yeah, those are the four plants that I like I say I chose because they're my notes, they're the best ones in my notes. And there's a lot more should you want to read about any more of these plants. Certainly I invite any and all of us to read about plants we have relationships with here in our landscapes, in our homes, in our where we are. Um, there's a lot in the natural world that is available to us. Lots of wisdom, lots of medicine, and it's everywhere. It's where we live. In my sort of beginning understanding of the Amazon, it's just it's more concentrated. It seems so concentrated there, as Paul said, it was referred to the arms race, that there's just this concentration because there's this there's,
Such wonderful conditions,
yeah,
really.
fabulous conditions. But yeah, anyway, so we're gonna leave the jungle trail.
Take a
And we're
monkey
just
break.
going to take a little monkey break before we go on to that, because this is a little character we saw coming
I think if you
on
click to the right again, it'll play.
there he is.
Monkey break.
Yeah.
Enjoy the monkey.
I just wanted to share that, the little sound and feel of the jungle because it was just really lovely. And those little monkeys are so cute. They're really tiny. There's a bunch of them up in the tree. So, as we move along here, so the next, and this is the most, this is kind of amazing and surprising. It's a clinic. It's a medical clinic in the jungle. And so, okay, there aren't many of those, but this one is sort of connected to us here in Minnesota. And strangely and unexpectedly. So I used to listen to a radio show on Wisconsin Public Radio because I live in Duluth. Well, I was living in Duluth and I still do. I do now. But it's a Wisconsin Public Radio since just across the bridge. So we get it here too. And there's a radio show called Conversations with Jean Faraka in the 90s. And I loved that show. It was a humanities show. She was a poet. I just thought she was brilliant. And she just did a great job with guests and that kind of thing. And I remember back in the 90s, she spoke to a doctor who was in the Amazon who was running a medical clinic. And I'm like, okay, that was interesting. And then the radio host and other people from Wisconsin Public Radio went to the medical clinic. And I remember the shows. I remember them talking about their time in the Amazon and all of that. And I thought it was really fascinating because everything on this radio show was fascinating. But I had no idea that where we were staying, we were going to visit this medical clinic and this doctor. And this doctor's from Wisconsin. And and yeah, and I had no idea.
Funded.
So yeah, and fun and well, I'll get that to the
We'll
end.
get there, yeah.
Yeah, I'll get that to the end.
No.
So as the story goes, there's a doctor, her name is Dr. Linnea Smith, who went on a vacation. She was just I think just went to medical school. I think she was newly divorced or something, anyway, life-changing thing. Anyway, I don't need to share her story. But she ended up on a vacation kind of thing in the Amazon jungle and saw a need and started practicing medicine in the jungle, a single woman by herself and with her medical bag and a few things. And that's how she started. She just went there and of course the person with the modern brain, me, thought, how is she doing that? What about liability? Oh my gosh, no licensing. I mean, she was a doctor in the United States, but not in Peru. And that was not an issue. It was not an issue. She just did. And there are plenty of things in the jungle that the natural healers can't take care of. A viper bite, a stingray, something, things like that, broken things. There's a lot of things. There's a lot of things that are needed. And so she saw this need and started practicing medicine and then ended up back in Wisconsin on the radio. And then the Duluth Rotary Club and heard the radio, the same program I had heard of in the 90s. And they thought, wait a minute, we need a project. And there was architects and there was people who could make things happen. They built they built a clinic in the Amazon from Duluth, Minnesota. And I have her book, La Doctora, and her name is Linnea Smith, and I have it in the links to her website. You can get her book. Um, it's in the show. It's in the Yeah, it's in the links. It's in the links. You have to just click through. I think it's the her clinic website, and then you can get the book there if you're interested. I just got it used off of like thrift books or something like that. And so so the Duluth Rotary Club s- and the Thunder Bay Rotary Club, and I think a Rotary Club in Iquitos funded and built this clinic. Actually, this is a second iteration because the first one went underwater and they had to build a new one. Yeah. And so
Literally underwater,
literally
not financially.
yeah. So here here's a little tour of the current where this is what we did. And we were with all the pharmacy students and it was really great because they showed us the pharmacy, and it was a really busy clinic and they gave us a tour. And the doctor wasn't there. She was back in Wisconsin at the time. And we did have a Zoom meeting at the end of our time with her. But these are an exam room and there's the waiting room and there's the pharmacy where they have and the pharmacy students love that. And so here is the plaque. And it says this clinic was built by Rotarians from Duluth, USA, Iquitos, Peru, and Thunder Bay, Canada, presented to the people of Yamamoto, March 1993. And it's just like, okay, I was aware of this when it happened, but I didn't remember. And I do now. And we got to meet the doctor. Paula and I got to sort of over Zoom, of course. And her presentation was amazing too. And just about her years in medicine there, challenging. And that's a tough lady. That's a lady who can wait because it was and I don't need to tell her story, but it's quite a lot of red tape she had to go through. And she is licensed in Peru now and has been for years and as a doctor. And so that was and I had no intention or knowledge that I would be flying from here to a specific place in Peru where this connection was made. Like how, I don't know. It still kind of amazes me. So, shifting gears a little bit. How about a girl with a pet monkey? She's a little girl. We went and visited a village with people, went to school, and visited some children and some the Yagua tribe. And this little monkey, and this is what Freddie told us, that this little monkey is this little girl's pet. And if those are in the area in the jungle, there will be no malaria because when malaria shows up, those monkeys will
Okay.
they just disappear. They go where there is no malaria. So that was actually a little heartening to me because I'm like, oh good, there's no malaria here, you know. So, but isn't it? And that little monkey really loved that little girl too. Yeah, he's kind of connected, and yeah. And then and then there was girls with pet sloths and they just get these sloths. And according to Freddie, the kids will, they'll have a sloth and they'll have it for a couple of months, and then one day it'll just disappear and go back out into the jungle. And so that was a young girl with a sloth in one of the tribe. Yeah. And then we visited the Yagua tribe, and this was really interesting because they told us this is the chief and Freddie. Freddie's translating. And this is the chief, and he told us about, their history and how they gather food, and they hunt with blowguns. And that was something we got to try. And one of the really fascinating things that really highlighted, and those of you who read Signs in Nature, and take that real seriously, because I do. And at one point during the talk and presentation, there was a really kind of a loud and unique bird call to which all of the elders, and I think I have another slide where you'll see them lined up kind of behind him. They all reacted and they're like, oh no, oh no, blah, 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 blah. Freddie told us that that bird call is a harbinger of bad news. And so they're like, uh-oh, they were, yeah, it meant bad news would arrive soon, and they were all reacted kind of dramatically about it. And I just can only hope that the news wasn't too bad for them. But but again, it was an example of people who read the signs and how important signs are. And yeah, anyway, so he was also sharing about how even here, people who live in small communities, tribes, these guys, the young people are leaving to the cities. So their numbers are dwindling, they're aging. Um, their future is uncertain because of that. A lot of them are going to Iquitos to live in the city or even Lima. And yeah, so that's kind of present. That's their reality and what they deal with and are struggling with. And so here's the people in the back, the fellas with the drums and the instruments. Those are the guys who reacted when they heard that bird call. Yeah. And so this is the dancers. They came and danced, and we danced with them, of course. You know, we got to dance with people, and that was fun. And we did get to try the blow dart too. We got to each try, and that's Paul giving it his best, trying the blow dart. And then these folks have a like an open air sort of craft market, and we were instructed to buy a lot if you
To
can,
support the trust.
to support them because it's how they make
Yeah.
make money, and so they made that. I put that behind us for tonight, and so yeah, that was a really special visit though to connect with the people and just to learn about them. Ah, and so we move on to one of the day afternoons on the river. And these are lily pads and they're huge. They're like 6 feet
Foot.
across.
Yeah.
Yeah. And those lily pads apparently they appear, they're green and they decay within 1 week.
Yeah.
And it's just this constant cycle. And they're thick. Mothers lay babies on them. They take babies to the river to wash them. They're so robust that they just set them on top of the lily pads and then they can do baths. They give them a bath. And so, but it's just and this is one of the big lessons from the jungle, but certainly it applies everywhere in nature is growth and decay. Because I had this image of the jungle just being this lush, beautiful, all the time, all green, everything in full strength and full potency. It's not. It's cyclical.
Churning.
Yeah, it's churning. It's cyclical.
Yeah.
And this was one of the best symbols of that for me is these lily pads because they're so big and robust and they only last 1 week and you can see how in different states they are. And so I think we're getting close to the end here.
Yep.
And I just included a couple shots of the river because that's the Amazon River. Isn't that beautiful? That was kind of at night. And there's another shot of the river. And then we did go fishing. Freddie took us fishing. And the top one is a piranha
That he caught.
that he caught. And they all catch and release. All catch and release. And then the bottom one is a little catfish. And again, like those other big striped catfish that were earlier, I showed you. This one, the color doesn't do it justice. It was so iridescent and silver and just gorgeous. And but Freddie also said, "Do not take the fish off the hooks yourself. Let me or the guy who was driving the boat in the back because those spines could hurt you." Again, like everything can sting you and poke you and cause you some trouble later. So everybody caught fish except for me and Paul and my friend. And I was okay with that. I had piranha on my fishing pole. Yeah, because Freddie said, yeah, that's piranha because they don't bite, they don't swallow the hook. They're smart. They won't swallow the hook. So I did feel what a piranha like boop, boop, boop was like, and I wanted to mention about the river too, just a little factoid that Freddie told us was that the river has a pH of 4. And the tributary was a 4
Certain parts of
certain
the
part.
river.
Yeah. And where the piranha, where this little spot where we were fishing, kind of a little offshoot stream, with the pH was 6.
Yeah.
So really, isn't that amazing?
You put the bait in
Yeah.
the water, and like after several minutes, it would start to bleach
Yep.
from the acidity. So
Yeah.
pretty intense.
Yeah. And we did see things like pink dolphins, but I didn't put a slide of that because it's, they were just
Not
little
very
lumps in the
fun.
water and things like that.
No.
And so one of the things I noticed though with the activities we did, like they're offered in a lot of different lodges and tour things on the Amazon. It's kind of the same activities. And I thought, well, of course, because it's kind of not the point. Like I don't want to catch a piranha. I just want to be on the river. It's I love meeting the people and it helps them and helps us understand and connect and um yeah, I just thought that just to be in the presence of that great forest, it was stunning. It was really stunning. And like I come from northern Minnesota. I go to the Boundary Waters and it's very different. It's very different, but it's also connected. It's also very connected. And I really do think that as part of my learning here as in this sort of deep ecology, that you practice your ecology, your if you practice things with nature or whatever you practice, it's about your landscape and where you live, where we all live. And so I guess I can close. This is the last one. And so this is sort of our closing ritual. And I did take pictures of the people because I didn't have permission and so we had like a smoke and we said a ceremony and you can see in the picture there's a cope we had copal. I think that was Palo Santo in the baggie there, and then there's those little cigarettes, those I can't remember what they're called, but those cigarettes. And so we had charcoal in a can and
And
we
smoke.
smoke and lots of smudge and just
Yeah.
speaking what you need to speak. And it was really beautiful because that's when the whole of the group with the nurses and the students and us
Okay.
together, we had the young people, the pharmacy students first were in the middle and we all the elders, all of us surrounded them and they spoke their truth in their smoke. And it was really beautiful.
Mhm.
Yeah, it was really beautiful. And so then when they were done, they left with Freddie. And then it was our turn. And wow, I didn't know I was gonna do that. But here we are. So so it was so much gratitude, really, just to have had the time and the attention. And so that was our closing. And then we go home. And that's just a picture I included from my family greenhouse in the spring. That's our green here. I don't know what those are. They might be like broccoli or something, a little tray of broccolis or something. But that's Minnesota green there, bringing it home. And
That's part of the mission is not to become Peruvian
no.
people with Peruvian plants. It's to do in your environment where you're from.
Your medicine,
You do you yeah.
your
You
own
do
medicine.
it in your environment. So the principles of what's done there, that's what it's kind of all about ultimately.
Yeah.
It's not locked into a location. It's where you are.
Yeah.
And you work with what's there. And the Native Americans
Yeah.
of Duluth do the same thing in a way, just with their whole different
Yeah.
nature.
That was one of and I'm part of the Ojibwe tribe in Minnesota. And that was one of the things when Freddie was talking about a lot of different things and beliefs and stuff like that, the parallels between some of the things I've learned personally here through my family and and such that they have. And one of the things was like owls. Owls in owls are sort of, thought of as a harbinger of death. I had a whole owl. I had an owl eye to eye in the counter in the jungle at night. And I told Freddie the next day, I'm like, Freddie, I had this with an owl. And he's like, oh, because that, in his, and I knew I wasn't going to die. I knew that wasn't it, but the symbol has become very potent, and I'm working with it. I'm still working with it, and I'm working with it here. And so there's a lot of parallels, and it was just really lovely to see how we do this. We do this with Freddie from wherever we are, you know. And so we return home, and here's some internet links, and we did put them in the chat too. And so that is the Monkey Island, the medical clinic, my teacher Connie Grods, and I should have asked her. I'll double check with her that I can. I think it's okay because that's her
Promotion.
website. Yeah, it's her
Yeah.
website. And then I did put the link to the Haliconia Lodge. Should any of you ever get there, it's a lovely place, and they really make good food. They have chefs there.
Yes,
And
it is amazing
they
food.
get a lot of local fish and stuff like
And
that.
fruit
Hmm.
and everything.
Yeah.